Tell us about your journey into coaching. How did this happen? Why did you choose this field?
As you've mentioned, I grew up in a family of entrepreneurs, so that's one of the things that kind of had always been normal for me, right? Running your own business, seeing my parents do that and building their own businesses, successful businesses. So that was one part that I always knew I wanted for myself as well. I wanted to become a business owner. And then another aspect from my childhood was that I was always interested in human brain, psychology. I remember back in the day, when I was about to finish my high school, when my mom asked me what do you want to study, I said brain. Fast forward again 5 years ago, I remember that day like it was yesterday. I woke up one Saturday and I was like, this cannot be it, right? Like I was like, everything is nice and amazing. I lived in Zurich in Switzerland, had a beautiful apartment, had a lot of amazing friends around me, had a great job. Everything was amazing and nice, but I was like, nah, this cannot be it. There must be something more.
A lot of things happen by accident, we think, and those are actually meant to happen for us. What do you want to say about people thinking whether coaching is effective or not?
I think when it comes to that, the most important thing to remember is coaching won't work if you don't do the work.
So I think you rightly said that you can take the horse to the water, you can't make him drink the water. Hello and welcome to Jennifer's Crossroad Conversation. Our guest for today is a certified career coach. She has been in the career development sector for over 10 years. She will help you improve the way you see yourself and what you're capable of. She's recognized and awarded by Brains 500 Global for her entrepreneurial success, for her achievements, and her dedication to helping others. Welcome, my dear friend from the beautiful city of Reykjavik, Iceland. Welcome, Sandra.
Hello, thank you for having me, Jennifer. What an introduction. I'm very, very happy to be here with you.
Same here. I think it's about 3 years now that we know each other and we've been interacting. And I know I'm on your LinkedIn group, Self Growth Hub, and I keep sharing thoughts and opinions there. And I learn so much from the group members there and the things that you share. And of course, as we were talking some time ago, that the YouTube video that we made 2 years ago, it's been such a long time. And it was reverse roles. You were such a wonderful host. I hope I can do justice today. And yeah, to our audience, if you want to go check out that interview, I'll leave the link in the description below. You can check out Sandra's YouTube videos. So,
Yeah.
Sandra, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, thank you. I was just thinking it's been a good and busy start to the year, had a few very nice trips, some new amazing projects currently in my work and preparing for the upcoming trip that's, just around the corner. So it's been busy. We also have longer days here in Iceland finally, because you might be aware we have this dark part of the year during the winter. So it's refreshing to see more sun, I must say.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a beautiful country from what I see and what I read. It's beautiful.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Iceland is, I think, one of those must-visit places in the world. It's very, very unique. I've been here now for 4.5 years,
Hmm.
and it's always exciting to live here. I mean, just recently we've actually had maybe 3 volcanoes erupting,
Oh,
just to
wow.
give you an overview of what's happening. These are small volcanoes, though, right? Like just very small ones. They were active for maybe 2-3 days, and then they stopped. But there had definitely caused some problems with some towns, fortunately. So, but apart from that, it's a beautiful, beautiful country.
Yes, yes. All right. So, Sandra, you have worked in the recruitment and education industry. You've also worked in sales and consulting. You have an MBA. You come from a family of entrepreneurs. Tell us about your journey into coaching. How did this happen? Why did you choose this field?
Yeah. So, okay. So there are like, if I were to go very, very far into my childhood. I would say one of the things that, as you've mentioned, I grew up in a family of entrepreneurs. So that's one of the things that kind of had always been normal for me, right? Running your own business, seeing my parents do that and building their own businesses, successful businesses. So that was one part that I always knew I wanted for myself as well. I wanted to become a business owner. And then another aspect from my childhood was that I was always interested in human brain, psychology. I remember back in the day when I was about to finish my high school, when my mom asked me what do you want to study, I said brain. That was my first response. But back in the day, I also had different priorities, entering the medical school, and so it wasn't,
Mm.
something that you could do, right? So, anyway, fast forward after I finished my bachelor's, I started working um, in hospitality because I studied hospitality management tourism. I
Mhm.
started working in that industry and then realized maybe after a year, like, I don't want to work in hotels. That's not what I want to do. And I got an opportunity actually to join a private university in Munich where I worked in admissions, right? So I was in charge of bringing new people into the school, advising them on different education paths, also helping them to decide what to do after, which I found to be so, so interesting. And this is basically where I got into consulting and kind of coaching as well, even though I didn't know that was coaching, right? I didn't know the name of it. Um, so did that. After a certain time of working at that university, I started my MBA at that school as well. So I did full-time studies and full-time work at the same time, which wasn't easy, as you can imagine, right? Like working, my days were like waking up around 7, going to work, working until 5, 6 p.m., and then having my studies in the evening until 9 or 10. So this was how my days looked like during the week. And then weekend was reserved for studying and, recharging for another week. But it was just a temporary thing, right? So we always want to keep that in mind. So anyway, did that, went through my MBA studies, got my MBA in public relations and communications, stayed a bit more in that school, and then moved into recruitment later on. I got into recruitment really by an accident. So I went to a recruitment agency for them to help me look for a new job, and they offered me to work there.
Perfect.
Yeah, this is how I landed in recruitment.
Okay.
I'll tell you that a lot of people actually accidentally end up in recruitment from what I've experienced as well. A lot of people have these kind of
Mhm.
stories. And yeah, so joining recruitment was where I really, my job was really to consult people on different career paths, coaching them through their journeys. I always saw recruitment as, a way for me to help people change their lives because it really is, right? Like career is a huge aspect of our life. And fast forward again 5 years ago, I remember that day like it was yesterday. I woke up one Saturday and I was like, this cannot be it, right? Like I was like, everything is nice and amazing. I lived in Zurich in Switzerland, had a beautiful apartment, had a lot of amazing friends around me, had a great job. Everything was amazing and nice, but I was like, nah, this cannot be it. There must be something more. And that day I enrolled into coaching certification with one coaching school. I decided to go on that journey. And here I am, 5 years after running my business. It's been 5 years and I've been absolutely loving it. This is kind of
Yeah.
short version of it.
Yeah. I'm sure a lot has gone into that. And it's a lot of things happen by accident, we think, and those are actually meant to happen for us. Because if you see your career trajectory too, recruitment didn't happen just by accident, I would say. It was kind of a stepping stone for you because it gave you an insight into helping people, dealing with
Mm,
people, interacting and communicating with them,
yeah.
getting a better view and idea of what are the needs, what's going on in the employment sector. So that actually would help you in your work right now. But yeah, it's nice to know that how you took that and built your coaching industry from there. And talking of the coaching industry, overall it has grown so tremendously over these recent years. What do you think are the biggest factors that are driving this growth?
Yeah, it's definitely like it growed so much. I totally agree with you. I think that's a very good question, actually. I mean, it's probably pandemic was one of the big kind of factors that drove this growth as well, right? Like people were, I would say, isolated and very much into their minds, so to say, very much self-reflecting. And I think a lot of people got inspired to work on themselves, right, throughout the time. Because usually, when everything is kind of working fine, when we are going to work, when we have our family obligations, weekend coming up and all that, you don't really have time to think about those things, I think, as well, right? A lot of time we're kind of rushing through our life, rushing from work to something else, to then something else, and so forth. So I think in lots of instances, for loads of people, pandemic actually made them kind of force them under quotation marks to self-reflect, to see what is happening, what aspects of their lives they're not happy with, what aspects of their lives they want to work on. And coaching really offers that support, of course, to help individuals improve different aspects of their lives. I mean, there's so many different coaching, really, how can I say, like coaching areas, right? One can
Right.
coach on general life coaching to career
Mhm.
coaching, what I do, right, to relationship coaching, to all sorts of different coaching. So I think that is one of um, the big things. And not to mention also, like we see a lot, like you're on LinkedIn a lot, I'm on LinkedIn a lot. We see a lot of talk about mental health, right? And it's becoming more and more normal to work on our minds, right? Like one of the things that I was just talking with someone the other day, which I find fascinating for the lack of the other word, is how working on our bodies, going to the gym is perceived as something normal, like, yes, do it. Whereas when someone is kind of working on their mind or working with a coach, oftentimes they're perceived as like, hey, what's wrong with you? Like, what do you mean what's wrong with you, right? It's like,
Yeah.
what?
Yeah.
Um,
That's true. And in my previous conversation with another coach too, we brought this up, and she too mentioned that working on your mental health is looked upon as a taboo. Everyone still hasn't opened up to the idea of coaching.
Mhm.
Everyone still don't look up to coaching as something that could help them. And even though this industry is growing exponentially, there are so many misconceptions and effectiveness of coaching for that matter. So, what do you want to say about this, about people thinking whether coaching is effective or not?
I think when it comes to that, the most important thing to remember is coaching won't work if you don't do the work, right? So coaching isn't something that now you hire a coach and everything is great and sorted and whatever, right? Like everything, you'll get what you put into it, right? Because, coach can do just as much, but nobody can physically make you do stuff, right? So that's one important thing, right? To really consider, are you open to coaching? Are you being coachable? Are you open to receiving whatever that coach is going to share with you, right? So that's very, very important. A lot of times there is this misconception, it's a quick fix, right? Or you'll go into a coaching session and the coach will tell you everything you need to do, right? I would be very cautious of that. I would also be cautious of those who, like, how could I say, like a lot of times in the industry, we would see different promises being made. I would just caution, there are no promises, because again, a very big part of the results and success you will receive from a coaching relationship depends on the person who is being coached, right?
Right.
So just to remember that, that's a very, very important aspect of it, I would
And
say.
I think I have interacted with a lot of coaches. I've met a lot of coaches and heard a lot of coaches speak on a lot of topics. And I noticed most of them, there would be similarities in what they're suggesting. The approach might be different, but the tips that they share with you, the tricks that they have up their sleeves that they are teaching you, they are basic things. One or two might be an eye opener for people, but most of them are basic things that people need to do, but they don't do. The
Mhm.
coach is there to tell you, remind you, and help you along the way to do that. So I think you rightly said that you can take the horse to the water, you can't make him drink the water.
Yes.
So you can just help them, tell them this is what you need to do. At the end of the day, it is them who has to do the work, put in that hard work. And talking of that, I recently looked at the life coaching statistics, and I noticed it. it suggests that over two-thirds of the coaching clients are women. And
Mm.
there could be two things to this. One, is it because women are more open to coaching, and men have this societal pressure to be self-sufficient? That's one thing. Or the coaching industry itself has a higher percentage of female coaches, about 70% compared to men. So do you think this could be the influencing factor to having a client base more of women?
Yeah, maybe. I think it's hard to say. I must say that for me, I have like 50-50 more or less, I would say, split between men and women clients. But it could definitely be, it's hard to, of course, generalize, but it could be this idea, men need to be strong, they need to be self sufficient, they shouldn't be asking for help, kind of these ideas that are imposed to us through the society. So maybe, but I would also, kind of keep in mind that firstly, we know with statistics, we always have to be very careful as what is really behind those statistics. But also, a lot of men will maybe not even say they're working with a coach, whereas in reality, they actually are working with a coach. So just to always keep that in mind. But I really, really hope that in general, people are going to understand and become more aware of the benefits, because I really truly personally believe that everyone can benefit from a coach, right? Again, it's such an amazing way to teach you how to see your mind and how to become your best friend, right? And how to manage your thoughts and how to manage your emotions. It's not about stopping to think or stopping to feel a certain way. It's more about learning how to think or feel whatever it is, but still use it in the way to continue growing, continue developing, and really creating the life that you wish for yourself.
And talking of mental health, I think that is why the coaches these days, even though they are a career coach, they would incorporate features or help for the overall lifestyle of a person. They wouldn't just focus on teaching them how to up your game in your professional life, because if you're able to manage your personal life, if you're able to handle it well, you
Mhm.
would perform better. So I
Yeah.
think coaches these days are focusing a lot on the overall aspect of people, help them with meditation, help them with organizing their stuff, help them with prioritizing stuff, and of course, how to up your game with regards to your professional life. So that's one thing I remembered. And on one of your LinkedIn posts or on your website, I remember reading that it's common for people to feel confused about their career path. Now, people might see, these signs of being confused as something very normal. They might just dismiss it, saying it's another stressful day for me. But I think it's very important for them to realize that this is really crucial. Something like a cold, a common cold, they would
Mhm.
dismiss it, but you never know, something like COVID has happened. So I think it's in the same way. If people are confused about their career, uh, they have to give it importance. So
Yeah.
I would ask you to elaborate on maybe some signs people can notice, and that they may be experiencing this kind of a career confusion, and what initial steps can they take to maybe gain some clarity.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Like, I see that a lot. And I just want to point out here that, it happens on all different levels. I coach people from all different sorts of backgrounds and seniority levels. And it really happens to those who are in their 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, right? So it's not, it happens to just a certain part of people or just some other part of people. It's more that it's not being talked about so much. So oftentimes when so before starting to work with my clients, I always have a free consultation call where we discuss where they're at, where they wish to be, and if we're the right fit. So a lot of times in those calls, they would be like, oh, I don't know what's wrong with me, I feel stuck in my career and I don't know what's wrong, right? Like, we just want to remind ourselves that nothing is wrong. It happens to all of us, like in different points in our careers, but that's not the end of the world, right? It's totally okay. Let's do something about it, right? So one of the things that you can start off with would be really understanding what specifically are you confused about, or what specifically makes you feel stuck, right? Reflecting on what is currently happening in your career, where you're at, and what thoughts and feelings do you have about your current situation, right? So this is the first thing where I would start. Now, a lot of times when we are in those situations where we feel stuck, we focus on what we don't know or what we don't have or what we cannot do. So the second step I would suggest would be to think about, what do you know? Right? What can you do? What are you able to? And then kind of start from there. Because when we start from there, we are starting from a much more resourceful and creative space rather than being like, oh, I don't know, the end of the story. Right? So let's focus, what do you know? And then build on top of that. Right? So these are kind of the main things to maybe start off with. And also, one thing that I like to ask my clients is that if you were able to create any kind of career for yourself, how would it look like? Right? If you could be as open and as creative as you wish to be, what would that look like for you? And then we play with that. Then we see what comes out of that. Um, and also what we've discussed before, right? Like, remember, always, you don't have to do it yourself, right? You can always ask for support is available. Is it career coaching, or is it talking to your ex manager, for example, or somebody else who knows you, right? You always can verbalize those things, you always can talk about those things rather than kind of spin with your in your own mind and in your own thoughts.
Right. And I think what you mentioned is very, very helpful to start from a positive note. Think of the positives. Because if you start from there, I think you would feel much more confident to move forward. You will feel more motivated rather than starting from some place you're not very good at. You would just keep brooding on, okay, I don't know this. It's going to be tough for me from here. So that's a good way to start, actually.
Yeah.
So talking of that now, what would you say are some of the biggest challenges that you've seen your clients face while you were coaching them? Do you have any stories to share? Maybe how you help them overcome these hurdles?
Hmm. I mean, I think the underlying biggest challenge, I think, in general, kind of to sum it up, really would be this idea of the way, again, what you also see a lot on my website, and what my basically coaching program is based on, is this idea of changing the way you see yourself and what you're capable of. Like, that is literally the foundation to creating miracles in your career, right? Like, if this is not something you work on regularly and really, yeah, spend time working on, it's going to be hard to create any kind of results. I always say, you can have any strategy you like in your life, but if your mindset doesn't align with it, it's not going to be possible for you to create those results. So you truly really want to continuously work on believing in yourself, in what you're capable of, in your abilities, in creating different goals, and then really making decisions and following through with executing those, rather than continuously flip, like yes but no, but yes but no. Right? We want to make a decision and stick with it. And in fact, that is also, and following on to what you said before about career, kind of taking this holistic approach and career just being one part of our life. That's also indeed what we do in my career coaching program. What I just want to mention is, we of course focus on career, but we look onto so many different aspects, because career, again, is just one part. So we want to create the career that fits the life that you truly enjoy and love. That's so important to me.
Right. And what you mentioned, I read your post about, what you see in yourself and what you're capable of doing. And along those lines, I was watching another video yesterday of Deepak Chopra on Oprah Winfrey's show, where he said, your mind controls your reality. So
Mhm.
that resonated well with me. And this was one of my questions I wanted to discuss. So it
Mhm.
just came up during our conversation. So that's wonderful. Thanks for sharing that. And I also remember another post you had mentioned where you mentioned about people looking at the clock and wondering when would their day's work end, or when would the day come when they would retire. And that's because they don't feel fulfilled in their career. They
Mhm.
don't feel they are making an impact. Their work is meaningless rather. So all these are making them anxious. And as a coach, you may be helping your clients figure out how to deal with difficult situations, how to change their mindsets, how to balance work life, and help them up their A game. But my question here is going to be, have you come across any client where while working with them, you noticed you do not have to help them change their mindset to tackle the how of the work, right? How to change your mindset, but rather what you need to change. So maybe they have to change their work itself because it doesn't suit their lifestyle or it doesn't resonate. It's just not their cup of tea. So have you had any such clients?
Yeah, so yeah, I mean, when it comes to the mindset work, it's not always about changing the mindset. In fact, it's not about, it's okay. So let me put it this way. I'm just thinking how to put this clearly. Okay, so let me put it this way. Like a lot of times we think there is something to be fixed about us or we are wrong about something, right? Whereas more often than not, it's more about making certain tweaks, right? So it's not necessarily about changing completely the way you see the world and career and whatever, but just to understand more about how are these thoughts useful to you and what could be more useful ways for you to think so that you create the reality, because we know that our thoughts create our results in our career, in our life, and in general. Now, with that being said, yes, for sure, I have encountered situations where individuals were feeling. By the way, I'm so sorry about my lighting. I don't know. It's like getting dark and light all the time. I don't know what's happening. But talking about mindset, right? A lot of times, in fact, yes, I have individuals who are, feeling confident. They are on the right path, again, under quotation marks, in terms of what they're thinking and how they feel about themselves and so forth. But what they might be lacking is kind of this courage to really take that step, to really make a decision and have their own back, right? So they're oftentimes I would see individuals being like, yes, I know what I need to do, but they're still not doing it. Right. So we want to understand, where is the disconnect? Why aren't you doing it? Like, if you know what you need to do, why are you not doing it? Right. It's kind
Right.
of going with the gym, you should go to the gym, but you're not going. Like, why not? Right. So what is happening there? We want to explore that. We want to clear that up. And that's why, again, coach is also your accountability partner, right? So coach is there to really ensure you follow through with your commitments, to remind you of what is important to you and how will that impact your, again, career, life, whatever you're working on with a coach, right?
Yeah.
So oftentimes, a lot of times I see people thinking that they need to make a huge, horrendously huge change, and that's why they don't do it. Whereas in reality, it's maybe the smallest tweak you have to do to create a totally different result, right? And also, let's start with the smallest first step rather than climbing the whole mountain, as we can see around, right?
Right. So true, Sandra. And yeah, I follow the same thing. I've read so many articles, and most of them suggest the same thing.
Mhm.
Start with something small. It helps you feel motivated. You feel successful in that.
Mhm.
It'll help you think, okay, I did this. I can do a little more. It just you keep leveling up bit by bit, and then you see yourself at quite a distance. So yeah, little steps make the most of it.
Yeah, I think that's really a trick to, whenever we feel overwhelmed, whatever it is that makes us feel overwhelmed, the odds are it's because we are looking too far. Like, oh, there is so much for me to do to get to, B position, from A to B. Whereas whenever it feels like that, just pause for a second and think about, okay, so that is my ultimate goal, but what is the first thing that I can do right now to get there? It's like, for example, one of the things oftentimes that I coach my clients on is like, oh, I have so much to do. There are so many things on my to-do list. And I'm like, all right, let's write them all down. Let's start. And then from like all of that, there is maybe 5 things on their to-do list. And they're like, oh, well, actually, that's not that bad. Right? So we want to, again, focus on the facts. What are the facts rather than what our brains love to do? And that is being very dramatic, right? We
Right.
want love to be dramatic.
Yeah. So true. And talking of that, um, you had also posted about when there is a problem, what is people's default response? Do they
Mhm.
escape? Do they take it head on? And thinking of that, some people would look at words exactly as they are, and they would want to tackle every problem head on like a bull.
Hmm.
Now, again, we have to think of uh, choosing our battles,
Hmm.
which battle we need to choose. And that's when it becomes important to see what is in our control and accordingly tackle the situation. So maybe if you would like to elaborate on this and maybe share some example of any cases that you have handled.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, when it comes to problem solving, a lot of people think like, oh no, right? It's kind of like, oh, what I wrote in my post was like, let me pack my bags and go to a remote island and live happily ever after, right? When the reality is, and we see that in so many instances, like our problems do follow us if we don't solve for them, right? And they might appear in different shapes and forms. Like one of the things maybe outside of career that we can think about is relationships, right? Like let's say you're in a relationship with a person that's not the right for you because of a certain reason. Then you break up, then you go into a new relationship hoping that things are gonna sort itself out, and then you encounter maybe same problems again in that person, then you move to another one, right? The same is true with the jobs. Let's say something isn't working with the job, so you move to a next one in a different company, then again certain problems come up, you don't solve for them, so you move to a next, right? So basically the point is, the point of problems when they appear in our life, because they will always be in our lives, right? There will never be problem free life that we live in. It's about realizing what can I do about it, right? Like what happened, reflect on what happened, and then, okay, so what do I want to for the situation to be instead? What is that I can do? What is that I can try, right? Like again, as I wrote in my post, let's say for example you have a undesirable communication with your manager. The first response for some people might be, I need to look for a new job, right? What I would like to invite you to think about is how can you, or what can you do to create a better relationship for yourself? So the first step could be, what kind of relationship do you wish to have with your manager? Let's get clear on that. Then after you have a specific answer to that, you want to look into, okay, so what is within my control that I can do to create such a relationship with my manager? Right now, of course, we know that for a relationship, we need two people to be on the same page, but we want to start with making change from your side. It all always starts with us, right?
Yeah, and that is the easier part because you can control your emotions, you can control your actions, and that's the best part of it.
Exactly, right? Like, so see what you can do, see what's within your control, make some changes. And if you then really see that things aren't working, then you might consider, I don't know, switching a team or switching a company or whatever it is. But what we don't want to happen is to have this default response be, oh, let's move to next. Something isn't working, next, right? And there, and it is easy to do that in today's world because there are so many options and so many things out there. So it's just easy to jump from one to another. But what I always challenge everyone on is like, it might be easier, but easy does not necessarily mean more valuable nor beneficial, right? So you just want to check in with you. Is this useful to me? Like, I love to ask that question. Is it useful to me, or how is this useful to me? And what could be a more useful way moving forward?
And with that kind of a attitude or mindset of let's change, it's not working out, that would be a repetitive circle because the person is going to do the same thing everywhere because there will be conflicts wherever you go, whichever company you go. You have to learn to deal with them, have to learn to build that relationship with your manager, with your team. um, because if you don't learn it in this company, when you move into the next company, you're going to face the same thing. It's just with different people.
Right. And like that's a very good point, which also brings me to a lot of the times I see individuals also assume different scenarios, right? I see that, for example, when I'm coaching my clients on getting promoted or getting a raise, right? They're like, oh, they don't understand me. I'm not getting a raise. Not getting a promotion. But then when we dig deeper, I ask them, like, okay, so when did you talk to your manager about that? And they're like, I haven't. Right? Kind of, we're assuming that people can read our minds, and we assume that they have to know that now is the right time for me to move to a certain position, right? We want to understand, like, again, what are the facts really? What have we done and what can we do? Right? So let's start there.
That's wonderful, Sandra. And it's so relatable. Every time we discuss these points, you start thinking about your own journey so far. You start thinking about people you have interacted with, their problems, what they are dealing with. And yeah, we there's so much of takeaway from here. And maybe you could also share some tools and techniques that you help your clients with to bounce off of you and maybe explore different career perspectives.
Yeah. So what I do, the program of mine, it's a 4-month coaching program where we work on 5 main important aspects of your career, really. So that would be self-belief, that would be self-care, because well-being is the most important, right, and the most precious thing we have. When we work on the self-care, there is also an extra component that I brought to my program, which is you get a tailored self-care plan, meaning fitness and nutrition, from my personal trainer, because that is so very important to work on our bodies at the same time. Then we work on your appearance, where again an extra component is you get a tailored stylist plan from my personal stylist. And then we work on people and environment. So we really cover all important, I would say, components that will help you create whatever career you wish in your life. And while working on that, of course, we are at the same time coaching on anything that's happening currently in your career. So I kind of stepped one, or how to say, I went over one step, and that is at the very beginning of our coaching journey. Of course, we set a goal: where do you wish to be at the end of our 4 months together? And then every session is really a stepping stone to getting there. But these are the main 5 components. So it's a very wholesome approach to your career, which of course has also impact to all other aspects of your life too.
Would you like to share maybe a difficult case where the the client brought to you the situation they were in, which was quite difficult for you to help them navigate through that situation? Maybe any such story you would want to share with us, and how did that? What was the outcome of that coaching?
See, that's a very good point. Okay, so let me put it this way. I don't think, like, from now when I'm thinking about this, that there has ever been a career situation that I encountered with my client that was unsolvable. Okay. What I did encounter was a client that I wouldn't say wasn't coachable, but more of a, they weren't ready for coaching, meaning they were not really open to really applying what we were doing in our sessions together into the real life, so to say, right? So I think this is where the disconnect happened. And what actually happened then was kind of then becoming dependent on me in terms of solving certain things for them, right? So what I mean by that is, for example, there was a situation in their career, they would come to the coaching session and they would expect for me to solve that for them. Like, what do I need to do? Tell me A, B, and C, rather than kind of looking into their own resources, into their own self, so to say, and me allowing them to help them come up with a solution, right? Because what happened then is they became dependent on me, and kind of me being the one who is problem solving for them. If that makes sense. I don't know if I'm communicating
Yes.
clearly enough.
Yeah, I get that, because a
Yeah.
lot of times it happens. People think that coach is there for that, to help
Yeah.
me through everything. But
Mhm.
it's really crucial for coach also to help the client become self-sufficient, because you are going to be there with them for that specific time period, just for the 4 months or 5 months, and then you're not there. What would they do after that?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, my job as a coach is not to make you dependent on me, but exactly the opposite. My job as a coach is to teach you different tools and techniques so that you can essentially coach yourself. Right? That's not to say I have clients that I'm working on for more than a year now, right? Or even more than that. But we're working on different topics, right? And they're essentially coming to coaching sessions, be like, hey, this was the problem. This is what I did. This is right. Like, they're basically self-coaching. And that is where the true success is. And in fact, that's why in my 4-month coaching journey, first 3 months, we're meeting once per week. But then the last month, we're not meeting over Zoom once per week, but you have access to me via Boxer, which is something similar to WhatsApp. So you have access to me just to make sure you're on the right path and so forth, but it's not that intensive as it is the first 3 months, because by the end of the 3 months, you will be self-coaching yourself and be to that level that you will feel comfortable, even before that, but especially after 3 months. right? So that is, I think, one of the difficult situations. But I also want to point out in those instances, as a professional, as a certified coach, it's also my obligation to put it out there, and to also part ways with some of the clients that are just not the right fit. So that's why it's also so very important for me to identify if we're the right fit through the consultation call that we always have before. And there are instances when I say, I'm sorry, but we're not the right fit, or I advise them to refer them to another coach from my network, or maybe even coaching is just not the right thing for them at that moment, right? That's a part of it, right? I'm not, if it's not the right fit, there is no point at the moment, right? It doesn't mean not right fit forever, for the time being.
Right, right. Yeah, totally makes sense, Sandra, because they are they approach you for a certain reason. They want to see outcomes, and if uh, you are not a right fit with them, then it will not work out. They will not be able to get the outcome. Whatever you may suggest, whatever guidance you give, they may not be able to make the most out of it. So I think, yeah, that's the best thing. Instead of, I don't know, maybe there would be some coaches who, for the sake of taking up clients, would take up any clients that would come. Not that they are doing wrong in taking up clients with the intent of making money, but with the maybe they have the intent to help anybody who wants to come to them. But then it becomes really important to think through, would they be able to help them get to where they want to be? So
Right.
yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I think, like I see coaching as, like I see my job as a coach to be so very responsible, so very important, so huge and powerful that I would literally not dare really going with someone, or charging someone for coaching if I don't truly genuinely believe that I can help them. So this is how I feel. I think it's a huge deal, right? So as much as it might be tempting to say yes to money, I think what's most important is to really be genuine with your intentions. I think that's, in my opinion at least, that's the right approach.
All right, so let me take a quick break on all the coaching questions. And I have a off guard question, just some fun questions. I'm going to ask you to pick a number between 5 to 10. And whatever number you pick, I'll ask you the question that's there on my notebook.
Oh, interesting. Let me go with 6.
All right, so let me see what's 6 here. What's the craziest adventure you've ever been on?
Oh wow. Oh wow. That's a craziest adventure. Hmm. I'm sure there are a lot. I mean, it's so hard to think about this off guard now. Can you maybe help me in like some area, like to narrow it a bit down? Because this is, I don't know where to start thinking. My brain is like working now.
I don't know what adventures you engage in, but I remember seeing one of your pictures where you went skiing. So I don't know if you have any stories to share from there.
Yeah, I mean that's I wouldn't say that's crazy. I mean, I ski, but I'm not like so I would say I'm more boring on that side of the thing. But I think one, for example, interesting, crazy. I mean, crazy. I think more of an interesting adventure was going for a hike here in Iceland, uh, next to the volcano that's actually ongoing, and that wasn't a small volcano. That, I mean, it wasn't a big volcano, but it was, a decent volcano, let's say. So going for a hiking next to the lava that's still very, very hot, and just sitting on one side of the hill, eating a sandwich and watching the volcano erupting. I think that's a pretty
That
pretty
is
interesting.
crazy, quite adventurous.
Yeah, yeah. I think
Yeah.
that's. But I also must say, like in general, I travel quite a lot, and there may be, and I like to be spontaneous. I like to experience. I also have a boyfriend who is also very much like that. So we really enjoy and embrace every experience as much as we can. So there are a lot, I would say, but I think maybe this one is the first one now that comes to my mind as a crazy one.
It's wonderful. And I can just keep go on speaking with you for hours, Sandra. It's so much fun having conversations with you. But keeping, being mindful of your time, I'll try to wrap this up. Maybe just two more questions. Yeah.
Mhm.
So
Yes.
now that the coaching industry is growing so rapidly, what are your thoughts on the future of coaching and the potential impact that it'll have on the society?
Yeah. Okay. So I think there are two things. Coaching industry is very unregulated. I don't know if that's correct grammatically, but it's not regulated enough. Let's put it this way. So with that being said, there is no clear guidelines in terms of certifications and education that has to be taken and so forth. Now, that's also not to say that to be a good coach, you must have a certification. I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying that I am a bit, interested at how will this be regulated moving on. Because again, coaching is a very powerful and responsible work that can have or that has a very strong impact on people who are being coached. So I think that's one thing to keep in mind. um, just that's on one side, and then on the other side, when talking about positive and great impact that coaching has and that we can see, is definitely, again, people becoming much more aware of how they come across, how they can impact and create better work environments, or living environments, really. So I don't see, like, I really truly only see that more people who are getting coached, and more people who are engaging in such journeys, better life or world we will be creating. I must say, really, I just to point out on that matter, I am engaged in some master classes where I'm surrounded mostly with coaches or only with coaches, and I really truly believe that conversations we have there are really, it's I don't know, it's very different, it's very powerful, it's very you know full of ideas, and really high quality stuff that then we can go ahead and apply in our lives. So I think that only positive things can come up. Like, more people are getting coached, more amazing things we're going to also see outside around them.
Right. And yeah, coaching is not just about building your career and moving forward, moving ahead, getting to the top level in your organization. And as we discussed, it's an overall lifestyle that you'll be building and improving. And if you are changing your perspective about things, you are improving that, people around you are going to see that, people around you are going to rub off those good things from you. And yeah, as you said, it's going to be a better world. So yeah,
You know how
that's
to
that's
say,
cool.
all change always starts from us, right? So if you want to see different things in the world, we are the ones who need to work on ourselves to create such an experience. And not to mention that by working on yourself and creating this positive change, you also inspire others to do that as well, right? You also show them what is possible, and that is a beautiful thing. The other day I was actually coaching a client of mine. He had just joined an organization in Zurich where he's a manager, and we were talking about how he's an example, right? Like, people are looking into what he's doing, how he's behaving, how he's coming across, how he's leading. And, in this or that way, he's inspiring others and being an example for them to behave and be in certain ways, right? So we're not even aware of that, but people are watching us, people are learning from us. And that can be a beautiful thing.
Right. So true. All right, let me wrap it up with one last question then. What advice do you have for our listeners today who might be considering pursuing coaching as their career?
Oh, okay. Okay, so two things. Firstly, hire a coach. Make sure you
Right.
hire a coach. Make sure you experience being coached as well. Like, I have a coach, and I think I will always have a coach forever. Right? Like, it's also one of the things I think that makes a coach a great coach as well, right? You need to continuously work on yourself. So anyway, hire a coach, see what it looks like, how does it feel, and then I would also consider, like, what are you hoping, like, in any career, right? Like, what do you why, basically answer why, what are you hoping to achieve with that career, or what is important to you, why coaching? Answer that question for yourself, really explore that idea, not because it's trendy, or because everyone is doing it, or because you can earn a lot of money. Like really dig deeper to understand why would you want to be a coach?
Yeah, I think if they dig deep and they don't find anything substantial, it won't pull them through for a long time. It'll just be something adventurous that they go on, and then they want to be back from that vacation.
Yeah. And also on that note, I have a few colleagues actually who went through coaching certification, and after that, they realized they don't want to be coaches. But even so, they learned so many amazing, frameworks and tools, etc., that they are certified coach. They are not coaches, they're not working in that industry, but they're still using that in all sorts of different ways in their careers and lives. So it's also something to keep in mind.
Wonderful. So, with that, I will wrap up today's episode. And Sandra, thank you so, so much for joining us today and sharing those valuable information with us. And as always, it's been such a pleasure speaking with you.
It was so nice. I loved it. Thank you, Jennifer, for inviting me once again. And I look forward to speaking again.
Same here, Sandra. Thank you so much. As we come to the end of today's episode, I hope you found our discussion insightful and valuable, where we touched upon one, the mindset and its implications on personal and professional life. Two, the importance of making small changes leading to substantial outcomes. And three, understanding how one's thoughts contributes to their results. We would love to hear your thoughts on this episode and the season as a whole. So please get typing in the comment section below. And please don't forget to spread the wisdom by sharing this podcast with someone who might need a boost. Thank you for subscribing to Jennifer's Crossroad Conversation. Until next time, keep exploring perspectives and inspiring growth.